Good afternoon, everybody. This is Nosheen Mukhtar with you today again, and this is another episode of Stylfemina Talks. Today, we are going to discuss again the wonderful fact that e-commerce is thriving and it continues to thrive even in 2023 and onwards. With me is none other than wonderful Julia Jackle. She is the CEO and co-founder of Creative 971, which is a web design and e-commerce agency. They specialize in creating Shopify stores and helping businesses understand how they can leverage on digitalization. She's been in the field for quite some years, but this has come through a switch, and this is what we are going to talk about. Before I begin talking to Julia, I want to inform you that she has been selected as one of the top 10 women in technology who've been able to make a difference as tech leaders. And that is why she is today with me in this episode of Stylfemina Talks, and I'm going to interview her. Welcome to the show, Julia. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me, Nosheen. We've been in the past quite active as well, and I'm glad and blessed to be in this show. So thank you very much for having me, and I'm doing good. I'm excited for our talk now.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's my honor to have you with us. And yes, our relationship goes way back in the past, and we've been together. Just to tell you, Julia, I used to own a web design company in 2012 till 2017.
Wow.
Yes. Anyways, coming back towards your story, I want to understand two factors which are very interesting for me. First one, you're an ex-banker. So from finance to web design and web development, and then towards specializing in e-commerce. What was motivating you? Why you made this industrial switch?
I think banking at that time in Germany, when I was living back then, like I'm now 12 years in Dubai. So obviously my past education was in the bank. I studied banking and finance in Germany. And it is a bit a dry field. And I've always considered myself a bit more, let's say, creative, less, structural, how the things are usually very, very strict in the corporate world. And I was always, more the friendly type and more creative. So I always wanted to do something that allows me to actually open up those doors, which in banking and despite also my past in real estate has been quite difficult because of the measures and how the industries are. I would say in 2015, late 2015, my brother and we came across a platform called Shopify. And that obviously only because there was talks about a German guy that went to Canada, wanted to sell his snowboards and was not able to because he couldn't find a proper platform to sell online. And we were kind of inspired by the story when we first heard it. And we said, listen, it's cool because we are also German experts. So he's German in Canada, we're Germans in the UAE. So we thought, there is a nice synergy around this. And we thought, okay, let's look into why Shopify in the early 2015, wasn't in the country. And then we figured out, okay, there are a lot of hurdles. There are a lot of points, like whether it's the payment gateway, the shipping, the whole infrastructure on the economy, on the e-commerce around Shopify didn't really much exist. Yes, there were people looking and, already like some of the, let's say, Aramex integration as an example. But then when we came closer to actually digging through, we found a lot of positivity coming from the market. People were welcoming that. We then approached Shopify to become a Shopify partner and a Shopify expert. And I think it just naturally flowed so well because we were exactly knowing what people tried to do and what they wanted to go for when it came to e-commerce by the fact that we actually had our own e-commerce business back then. And, we were looking for options that makes life a bit easier. And I think that's what Shopify really really hit a spot on, that they are actually much more intuitive, whether you want to do it alone or you have a team. And I think that's kind of part of the journey. But then the breakthrough obviously came because we were honestly not expecting it that successful from the beginning, talking to industry partners, speaking to clients. In the beginning, we helped a lot of startups because for them, it's particularly difficult to manage the whole technical stack and the content and data on their website themselves. And I think it naturally, organically kind of grew. And that's why it felt so good, because you did something and people were really like grateful, So it really felt like you're thriving on something, building on something as a community, not just, okay, we do your website and goodbye, So that was, I think, the different angle on how we started. And yeah, it's been fast forward almost 7 years now.
Great. Congratulations on your success. I'm very
Thank
happy
you.
with that. I want to know why you named the company Creative 971. Okay, I understand creative, but why 971?
Yeah, we were digging and finding and, wanted to be different in the market. So we kind of understood, okay, we have to come up with some, creative approach. And I remember exactly it was in one of the evenings and I was just, like drawing and I was just having an idea and I was actually drawing on a napkin. I didn't even have a paper in front of me. I was drawing on a napkin, a couple of numbers, and then 971 actually came because of the country code. So the UAE is plus 971 as a country code in phone numbers. And I was playing around with the word because we thought, creative is kind of expressing what we do. And then, how do we get the local approach in? Because for us, it was very important to serve to the community that is regionally, that is the UAE or then the GCC. Because also a lot of times, Arabic speaking e-commerce websites were not tackled as much. So we wanted to show people, yes, the company is here. And I think a lot of people ask the questions, why the 971 or 971? But then when you actually tell the story and you say it's relating back to the country that gave us so much in growing and helped us so much in building that brand, and it's kind of a way of saying we give a bit back to that community. And I think that's really
It's
sweet.
very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. It's lovely. So, how has the journey been? It's been like, 7 years and going on. Did you enjoy doing it? Of course you did, yes. I know it's a lame question, but we would like to know what were some of the things that you loved during your journey and they really pushed you on and they really motivated you and you felt like, okay, the next morning, I just can't wait to do more. So what were those things, those incidents and factors? These are two. Incidents are different. When you deal with certain kind of people, you automatically feel triggered and you really want to do more. And when you are making more possible, that counts as a factor, the financial factor. So you need to tell me two things, the incidents and the factors.
I think it's also similarly said with the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, every company and everyone has probably going through the same. I found it particularly at first hard, I would say, because also my brother and I, we were quite young when starting the company. And a lot of times, when you start, people object, you're so young, how can you know this? And you cannot, and all these limitations. But I think when actually someone had worked with us and understood that we holistically look at everything and we literally take you by the hand, walk you through that, advice in the best possible ways with the expert partnership that we built in the UAE, that people actually understood, oh, wow, there's someone who's actually there helping me to solve these problems. And I think that was a big factor, that these problems and these, let's say, mysteries that people didn't understand, or e-commerce, such a big word, but what is actually behind? What does it do? It's not just having a website or having a domain or having a shopping cart on the website. What does it actually mean? And what can they empower their businesses for their customers to really have a benefit and to have that competitive edge over other companies? And I think that, I don't want to say thrill, but that win or that positive moments when we help the client to build a website like that and to build an e-commerce channel that then fully automizes from the customer clicking the purchase and then actually the whole back end to work as well. And then seeing the customer being happy and growing and, building certain different offices or going into retail space where they just started online. I think these things are a big, win or some sort of fulfillment, because you personally know it's not like you just did a service and then goodbye. So you were actually following a journey and following a story. And I think that's what we do as a company as well. We have a certain story, and we like seeing companies building their own stories and then becoming successful, even though it's difficult sometimes. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, we had especially I think in the first 2 years looking out for a lot of partners, and sometimes our weekends became like the days when you actually could work without clients calling or meetings. So I remember it being difficult at times as well, but I think what kept us thriving, or what kept us going, was that it's not okay, not only the financial part that fulfills you or makes you happy, but then knowing how could you, like, who do you empower, what comes forward, and other people become aware, they talk to you, they understand. We were like really digging for more. And then when you are an expert, and especially with Shopify as a platform, the network within Shopify is quite strong, because they're building everything on their, let's say, community and support to their members, and we were doing the same out here. So we felt it's really like helping each other to grow. And that's why we kept running the Shopify and Shopify Plus meetups. So they're official events in the UAE as well. We normally did that in person, but then yes, of course, Corona or post-crisis, I mean, we will probably do one next year. We didn't do in the past 2 years. Right. But yeah, I would say it's kind of the that coming together, making things happen. Like this is literally what was the most rewarding, I think. Yeah.
Yes, I understand the value that community brings, and when you're sharing knowledge and empowering people through that, it does matter a lot, and it works with all sectors and different kinds of companies, because that actually brings people to you. You get connected on a personal level. They learn from you. They remember things that you've taught them. They value the consultation more that way. So it works very well. And yes, definitely, you've been doing a great job of that. So moving forward, when it comes to running an e-commerce agency, and with the way Web3 is evolving and things are changing, how do you think in e-commerce space, companies should be performing to ensure that business is running seamlessly and they are building more upon that? What advice do you share with us?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, talking about Web3 is a huge, I mean, it's a huge change. It's very new to a lot of companies, and yet some companies probably haven't even started going online in e-commerce. What we normally advise is having the basics right. And having the basics right doesn't mean to have the e-commerce website, but it means to have a plan. So for example, what do I mean? I have, let's say 100 clients, right? From those 100 clients, what do I want as a business? Like, what is my objective? So I have to build first a goal. And according to that goal, what I do want with this 100 clients, I have to build my strategy. And I think a lot of e-commerce businesses think, oh, let me get online, put my products on, and then I do a bit of marketing and it will sell. It won't work this way, because we're missing out on an element. We're in an era where, especially after COVID-19, a lot of things, like even now we're having this recording, we're having this interview online. If you look back a couple of years, we wouldn't have had the opportunity. Like, we would not technically probably had the opportunity, or we would have rather met in person. And I think showing that digitizing a lot of things makes sense, but you also will still need to build on what human believe and trust, and especially trust is in e-commerce, I think, the number one word.
Yes.
And
just to intervene a little bit, in 2018 and 19, we were doing entrepreneur stories, my story for you. And we were sitting together and recording through camera, not doing it this way, the way we are doing today, the live broadcast. Yeah. So yes, you are absolutely right. We used to do it differently before the COVID, and after everything became essentially digital, let me call it that way, we've moved on towards this. And from here, we are moving on towards Web3 and then the metaverse. And hence the question, how businesses can better perform when it comes towards metaverse and Web3. Of course, metaverse and Web3 are different. And everybody is saying that if you're marketing in the metaverse, you need to do things in a certain way. So yes, carry on now, Julia.
Yeah. So yeah, all this build up actually comes to a point of what I want to say, which is, in my opinion, and I think Nushin would agree, because as well, it's definitely that building the your customer base or your network or your community. So it's not that you're speaking only one way, but you have actually like an active communication where your customer can come back and raise certain points, or you build out personalization to them, whether that's on email marketing or certain gift vouchers or advantages. And I think in e-commerce, people need to understand, or in this time, that we are super hyper targeted by everyone and everything, whether it be on social platforms or on our SMS or whatnot. But the community does make a difference, because when you are part of a community, you trust other people, you rely on their feedback, and word of mouth is hence the most strongest marketing or advice you can have. And building that into Web3 and actually, or the metaverse, makes sense, because when you look at I think NFTs, talking about Web3, it's very important that Shopify also started in the US to have the beta rollout to actually sell NFTs through Shopify as a platform. And the reason being, brands, no matter if it's cosmetic brands or other brands like Adidas, for example, a good example, they launched a couple of their NFTs with they became special access token to their in real life events, or premium access to specific collections. So brands can turn it the way they want to create this limited and community access that then forms a specific community. And I think then Web3 and e-commerce or even metaverse can become really powerful, but because they use a stepping stone of that community.
Yes, true. Thank you so much for sharing this insight. When it comes to e-commerce, what are some of the pain points and how should we address them? As you're an expert, I would like to know your views about that.
I mean, pain points are a lot of times, I wouldn't say technical anymore, because when the technicalities are set up, the difficulty becomes most likely into reach, like how do people get to see that you're online. The difficulty comes in abandoned carts, like maybe a lot of people will come to your website but then will drop out, or they will not come complete the purchase, or the marketing fails and companies are probably getting a lot of traffic but then nobody checks out. So that is more into marketing itself. And also what we've seen, it's similar, goes into the similar direction, that whether it's micro influencer marketing or some sort of affiliation where you have like kind of brand ambassadors that go and spread the word of your brand, that can be also in micro environments. Let's say, for example, like Nushin mentioned earlier, I'm a passionate horse lover. So it is true when I, for example, go to the stable and I have a particular treat that I feed my horse and it's all natural and organic, and I feed it and my horses are happy, then probably I will have other people asking, oh, this is nice, where have you got this, where have you, so like it's like a small community, but that micro community trusts, because they see how your animal behaves or how your animal is happy when getting that treat. And that could be with horses, with cats, with dogs, any community you can think of. So having key ambassadors for your brand can actually help selling, because they're also setting the tone of the ideal customer, the like kind of stereotype that you want as your dream customer, and you portray that visually, but also through an ambassador, through the digital marketing. And then it becomes a lot more personal, because that's what I said, when we're all in front of cameras and not physically having that connection or that chat, it becomes a lot more difficult. So even influencers, for example, on Instagram, when they have their stories and they're talking about XYZ product and what it did with their skin or how it helped them to overcome maybe certain health issues or whatnot. So it really can show whoever is behind the camera that it actually makes sense to have these advocates for the brand. And I think that's what people need to understand more, what brands need to work with more, and have these collaborations that actually can then make the difference, because they give back to the community. They understand, okay, we're talking about, let's say, a skincare brand that solves acne. And when you actually see it on real people, then you'd rather trust, because we know there's a lot of probably fake out there as well. There's a lot of before and after, and maybe a lot of Photoshop. But then you need to actually assess it on real life people. And that would, in my opinion, do a larger difference than any paid ad that can get out there.
Yes, I'm not a paid ad advocate person, so I will agree with you 100%. And I feel that the right level of advocacy with more originality builds a lot of credibility into what a brand is doing. And it matters a lot because it can bring in very organic, heavy level of conversion to the brand. And then there will be repeat purchases, of course, because people have that trust in the brand. So coming towards the fact that you said it all depends on marketing. I agree to that 100%. But the smaller businesses that are a year or 2 years old, they might not have that kind of a budget where they can actually invest more in marketing. In that case, do you have any suggestions for smaller businesses?
Mm-hmm. I mean, for smaller businesses, what we normally advise is working on their SEO, which is the organic traffic, because it does help, and blogging and text writing does help to be recognized and to be ranked organically. Definitely, it's not the only way, because it's definitely going to take at least 3 to 6 months time to be successful. It's not an overnight success. But I would say nothing that has a value is an overnight success, because it's usually any brand you see very quickly performing, either they throw a lot of money at the brand or they don't have sustainably long-term goals to support that. Another idea that we've actually tried with smaller brands was them getting a certain, I would pro medium influencer that can be someone with just 5,000 followers that actually promotes the certain brand or product, and then in return gets, for example, those products for free. So it's not like you have to invest heavily into marketing and spend thousands of dirhams, but it's rather, as a trade, as an actual barter deal that you can do with some of the micro influencers, and their communities are usually much more genuine, because in smaller followership they wouldn't follow if it wouldn't interest them. And those smaller micro influencers are more likely to actually accept a barter deal rather than asking for huge payments for a certain number of posts, etc. So I would say that helps. And then definitely word of mouth, and which you would normally get through certain micro influencer strategy, because with less money or little investment you can actually grow your reach.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, micro influencers have been rather more attractive, more effective. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So what has been one of the most interesting projects that has been recently covered by you? Very interesting. Something
very
different and yet cool.
Yeah, I think very interesting is part of the recent works that we do with the brands in Saudi Arabia. So there, some of them are international brands like Woman's Secret, Saudi Arabia, for example. What is interesting about those brands, that they fulfill a certain level of English Arabic front end requirements. But at the same time, in Saudi, the ministry is changing requirements of, for example, being able to delete an account if a customer wants to delete an account on the website. And these are recent challenges that, from a technical perspective, we were exploring, but then to do the same as well in Arabic language. So there are a couple of points that are really interesting to see, and then interesting to see again how those how those brands work forward when it comes to imagery as well, because especially when it's women's lingerie, it's very different to portray in Saudi than, for example, in the UAE in terms of cultural aspects and everything. And I think this project was particularly interesting because it did give a lot of challenge. And for us, it's interesting because we grew into these challenges, but then knowing that, let's say we solve XYZ, like the account deletion on a client, we have another client that, we need the same, we're Saudi based and the ministry requires us now to have account deletion for a customer account enabled. So these things, it's kind of helping us to work around and find solutions that then not maybe readily available on Shopify, but it doesn't mean you cannot achieve those through specific coding. So these are exciting and these are interesting, and I would say this is what really makes a difference. I mean, for us to see the real life examples done. Yeah.
Yes, that is interesting. And yes, many times it's the cultural differences that ask us to innovate and do things in a way that is non-conventional. Thank you so much for today's talk, Julia. Is there a message that you would like to give to our listeners today?
I would think as a message is what I was told a lot of times by my family, and I'm really grateful to have an amazing family support, family in Germany and here in the UAE. And I think as a message, I would just say, whatever you feel you want to do, and if you feel you can succeed in something, just start and keep believing in yourself, believe in your dreams and goals, and just don't give up. If it gets hard, one day it will be harder, one day it will be easier, but just, take one day at a time and just don't give up. Yeah.
Yes, very true. So you should keep going. If you have a dream and you want to materialize it, you should have the courage to do so. And you can only achieve if you step forward and take action. Thank you so much, Julia, for being with us, and we will continue to see you soon. Take care.
Thank you
Have a
very
good
much.
day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.